Hey everybody, welcome to Strong. Welcome to episode 7 of Strong. I'm so excited to introduce our next guest to you, but just before I do, for those of you just tuning in for the first time, welcome to the Strong Journey. This is a journey of creating community all over the world, with season 1 bringing women from as young as 6 years old to hopefully women far beyond generations and generations, with the aim of not just supporting young people around the world, but also creating community with women to share their stories and really be able to tap into other journeys and feel connected to women that they probably have never met before, but have a connection to their story and feel supported. So today brings our very special guest, another amazing woman that I have been very privileged to meet on my Strong journey. And her name is Nimi Mehta. Welcome, Nimi. Welcome to Strong.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited for this interview. We met a little over a year ago for the first time. You came to do some work with our teenagers, and you came back again this year. And it was when you had actually just come this year at the start of this journey, where I wasn't really public with what was going on, and I was trying to find my grounding. And I remember meeting you again, and the energy that you brought to the room was amazing. It was phenomenal. Watching teenagers really listen to you and hang on to all of your words. Do you feel that energy when you're walking into a room? Do you feel the energy that you bring when you're meeting new people for the first time?
I don't think I do. I still don't think I do. I hope that I bring that energy, but until people like yourself give me that feedback, you're never sure or you're never certain. So it's nice to hear that that's what was felt in that room that day.
Not just this time, the last time as well. I think this time I was even more sensitive to the energy around me, obviously with what was going on. But I remember when you left that day, me thinking, whatever she has, I want a little part of. The positivity that you brought to the room, but the honest, genuine positivity, which brings us to this interview. And this is a conversation, two women at the table, having a talk about life and your story. So I'd like to take you right to the beginning. And I know that in the different interviews I have with different women of different age groups, the answer to this question is slightly different, but there's almost a pattern, a similarity that I'd love to see if we see that with you as well. And the question is, who is Nimi?
Oh gosh, I don't think I've ever been asked this. Who is Nimi? Well, there's different versions of Nimi. There are so many different versions of her. But the Nimi that I know today is a woman who is still figuring it out. I still don't know who I am. I'm, like we all are, on the journey, but as it stands, I'm a woman who has faith in her journey, and that's what I can really strongly say now at the age of 29, is that I've fully realized my potential and what I can bring to the table. And some may think this is a bit late on in life. Some may think, wow, this is so early at 29 to be able to figuring this out. But Nimi is just someone who is constantly searching. I'm constantly searching for what my purpose is, what I want to be, what the effect that I want to have on people. I'm a conscious person. And that is something that I take pride in, because I think that's so important in this day and age, especially.
So important. Talk to me a little bit about the different roles that you play as Nimi.
So what's interesting is that you think about the professional career that I have, and waking up the UAE, the nation, every single morning. It is a responsibility. So there's a certain person and certain element of myself that I have to bring to the table every single morning, which is someone who has that responsibility of waking people up. You're the first voice that they hear, you're the first energy that they feel, and you have to ensure that it's a positive one. So that's a version of me where no matter what's going on in my personal life, and something that I believe that you could probably resonate with, being an educator and being a guide for a lot of children out there as well, is that no matter what's going on in your personal life, you have to leave that all behind. So that version of me is a strong facade, I would say. Still authentic, still genuine to myself, but it's the version of myself that for 4 hours a day I can be happy, I can be energetic, and I can feel good. There is a version of me which is with family, with friends. With family, I can be a lot more guarded down, just like shield down myself. This is what's going on. Just a lot more emotional. With friends, it's the side that just, I guess, where I could just be free. It's a sense of freedom with my friends. And then when I'm meeting brand new people, I find myself retreating back to my 12-year-old self. So that's still that version of myself that's inside me that I'm still trying to figure out. So when it's meeting new people, I'm that version of, I'm still unsure as to who I am. Oh my goodness. So there's so many different versions that I feel bring to the table. Like every day it's like I'm discovering a new version. It's crazy, but...
And you've just gone through a pivotal point in your life. You've just recently gotten married.
Yes.
So you've brought in a new role into the world we call Nimi.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's interesting because it's not the normal path that I've taken with that either. The general societal norm, get married, move in together, live life together, and that just hasn't been the case for me. I've been a long distance marriage for 6 months now. There's the idea of him moving end of this year, but so that's someone who is torn because I'm married and I have the ring on my finger, but I don't have someone to come home to. So that's it's kind of confusing in the mind because I have this responsibility to someone. I have someone to consider now, but not physically there. So that's something that I'm dealing with consistently. And I'm lucky I've got a very supportive partner who understands that I also have a very crazy life here. And, the decisions we made for me to be here far away from him was a joint decision. He fully supported that my career was important and that was what we wanted to do. So the version of myself with him is, I don't know how he does it, but every day he's discovering a new version of me. He's like, oh my goodness, who have I married now? But yeah, it's all fun, isn't it? You're figuring it out.
It is, and playing these different parts, these different roles. We are different people for different people. Tell me what it's like to be Nimi on a typical day. So what we don't see is what it's really like to be the person we aspire to be when nobody's watching. Right. And I think young people today, they look up to people just like you and say, I want that life. She looks like she's living a really glamorous life. You're out and about. We hear you on the radio. And they don't see what goes on when you wake up and what goes on behind the scenes. So take us through a typical day for Nimi.
Right. A typical day for me is waking up at 4 a.m., getting ready to drive to work, getting to work at like 5:30. And that drive to work, by the way, is the most bliss thing in the morning. There's no one on the roads. You just have time to yourself. You're either listening to a podcast or listening to your favorite song. And I have like a super addictive personality. So when I love a song, I'm just listening to it over and over again. And then I get to work and then you're quite literally on. You have no chance to switch off at all. You are constantly on guard. And 6 to 10 a.m. is our 4-hour show where, we are speaking to all different types of people from all different walks of life, all different ages, and just trying to boost their energy up. And what I say is what's interesting is that a normal job, say it would be 9 to 5, people have that time over the day to exude their energy. We do everything compact, compressed in that 4 hours. So after that 10 a.m., you can imagine we just crash. Yeah. We're like, oh my goodness, I'm exhausted. So you need time to unwind and just figure out, okay, now by 11 o'clock, I'm like, this is my day, let's go ahead with it. And I have meetings, I have shoots, filming, kind of the thought process though, I want to take it back to when I wake up every morning, because this is the interesting part, is I have this quote which is actually the background on my phone, which I never want to forget, and ever since I saw it, it's just stuck with me, is I used to pray for the things that I have now. And every single morning I wake up, and even if an ounce of me is tired, I'm like, get over it. Get over it. You have no time to think about, oh, I wish I didn't have to do this. No, get up, because there were times where you were unemployed for 2 years and you were in bed and you were crying and you were upset and you were like, when am I going to get my chance? And now you're living that. You're living your dream and you're living your truth, and you have to be grateful, get up and let's go. And so anytime during my day, I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered. Oh, I'm just not in the mood. Well, listen, there are so many more Nimi metas ready to go behind you. So let's just keep going and let's be grateful for what you have. And, you know, as my day goes on, then we have like events in the evening that we sometimes have to go to, sometimes don't have to go to, but appearances sometimes go on till late, and most nights I only get 4 hours sleep. And this is something actually I spoke to Gary Vee about, which was how important sleep is. And he says, you know, most people think that less sleep means that you're more successful. You know, you're hustling harder than everyone else. But he was like, the real key is that sleep is just important. Like, the more sleep you get, the more on it you are, the more switched on you are. And so that's something that I'm trying to adjust at the moment. 4 hours sleep is not enough. I'm aware of it, but trying to make that adjustment and routine is something that I'm trying to fix in at the moment.
So it sounds like from the minute you wake up in the morning till the minute you go to sleep, it's go, 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 rush, 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 and constantly on to the next thing and the next thing. Being in the limelight, what does that feel like? What is it that young people don't understand about what you do?
It's what I spoke about earlier, is that it's not all rosy. You know, it's not all glamorous. It's not all, I just walk into a room, glide into a room on a cloud, and my hair and makeup is done, and my life is perfect. It looks like you've got such a perfect life on the outside, you know. Sometimes I sit there and I look at my Instagram, and this is something I'm trying to break at the moment, but I look back 6 months ago and it was just pretty photos. It was just photos of me on the beach or at a cool event in some funky clothes, and you know, very little text in my caption. And I was like, who were you? Who were you? Because in the last 6 months, what I've seen is a growth of myself, which is this sounds ridiculous in Instagram terms, but longer captions with more deep, meaningful thought, photos that aren't so pretty, that just evoke emotion and mean so much more. That's kind of like the growth of that I want to just show more of myself and show that it's not great. It's not always 100%. You know, of course, the job that I have is amazing and I'm blessed to be able to do what I do, but there is so much that comes with it. And responsibility. Responsibility is a huge thing for us. You know, having children, grown adults listen to you every day. Sometimes you might have an opinion that adults don't even agree with. So you get backlash sometimes on that, and having to deal with that as an individual, but also as a public figure, is an important thing. And every interaction you have shapes you. So even if we have a call with an 8-year-old on the phone every single morning, like, hey guys, I love you, you make my morning, that just means everything to us, because we're like, wow, no, waking up every morning doing this is worth it. Because even if we make an impact on one life, it means something.
It really, really does.
Yeah.
So Nimi, this is the part of the show where we put all that to the side and we really want to touch in with Nimi. So when nobody's watching, when the cameras are switched off, when Instagram is put to sleep, how do you spend that time alone?
It's interesting actually, because you're catching me at a time which is, I think, a chapter end into a chapter beginning. So I remember the other day, I think it was 4 p.m. and I was sitting on my sofa and I was waiting for my sister to arrive because she flew into Dubai, and I caught myself looking out of my window, and next thing I know, I look at my phone and it's 6 o'clock. I'm like, 2 hours went by, what just happened? So what I'm finding at the moment is a lot of self-reflection. It's a lot of how far have you come. What we're all super guilty of is not taking a moment to recognize how far we've come, the growth that we have achieved so far, how far we have yet to go, but not worrying about what's happened, what's coming, just being in the moment and just being grateful. Gratitude is such a huge thing for me, and that's what I do lately. And it sounds crazy, but with so much chaos going around you, you need a moment to just be in your own head and to figure things out. There's so many different fragments of my mind which are, you know, is everything that I'm sacrificing worth it? I don't have a family member around me. I don't have anyone that grew up with me around me. My husband is miles away from me. Is this all worth it? And it's just reassuring myself consistently. And I think that's what people forget as well. Like, it looks like you made it and it looks like you've achieved it, but it's never enough, right? Human nature is consistently what's the next thing. So instead of thinking about what's the next thing, I'm now trying to focus on, okay, where are you now and how far have you come? And did you really think you were going to be here? So really just being okay with that and being grateful for the moment.
So if I were to be a fly on the wall during that time alone, would I see you journaling? How would I see you? What kinds of things would you be doing?
One thing that I do is I always write a letter to myself. This is just me on my laptop on a Word doc, and I've got, I guess it's a advanced journal, but it's just letters to myself, which I think the last one I wrote was in November. It's just moments in my life that I feel like it's about to erupt. And so I just see myself typing away. And what's interesting is looking back at those as well. So I look back at November and I was like, wow, you've come so far, well done. Some things are very much the same. Some things I haven't changed, which you get angry at yourself, like, okay, well, now that's the next step. Okay, like, let's change that in your life. You haven't changed that yet. So if you were a fly on the wall, you definitely just see me on my laptop figuring it out. Music is incredibly important to me, being a radio DJ, but music gets me through a lot of tough times. Something I'm guilty of though as well is when I'm sad is listening to sad music. Instead of listening to the good happy music and boosting myself up, I'm listening to the sad stuff. But this is something that me and my friends talk about. It's, well, don't try to run away from the sad. If you're sad in the moment, embrace it, be okay with it. You have 24 hours to let it all out and then move on, you know? So I think that instead of trying to brush things under the carpet, attack it and deal with it there and then. So music, typing away, that's what you'd see.
And with what you're telling me, being 29, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, wow, I wish I was like that at 29. Because I think growth is really relative to the person and we're all on our different journeys. But if you could be 14 again, what would you tell the younger Nimi that would have prepared you for where you are today?
You know, this is, and I don't believe in coincidences, this is funny because last week I recorded an episode on my podcast and the title was A Letter to My Younger Self. I posted a throwback on my Instagram a few months ago of me when I was 14 years old and I was in Dubai on holiday with my family. And I see that girl and she's posing on the beach and she's doing a weird pose that her mum obviously told her to do. And I look at that girl and I think, I am so proud of you because, you know, the journey that you have come to, there's a part of me that knows I was destined for this. If you ever speak to my mum one day, she will tell you this story. She tells everyone this. Ever since I was younger, I used to say to her, Mum, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I just have this massive fear. And she's like, what is it? And I'm like, I'm scared I'm not going to fulfill my purpose. Like I don't want to be ordinary. I'm destined to be extraordinary. And you know, everyone's definition of that is different. It's not that me being a public figure is extraordinary. It could be you're a mother of two, you're a housewife, that's extraordinary. But it was just, my perspective was that I want my voice to be heard one day. And the fact that I've come full circle and I'm doing that is such a beautiful thing. And when I did this episode, Letter to Myself, there were so many things I had to say that I just wanted to blurt out. But one thing that stuck for sure is that just have faith in your journey. If I could see my 14-year-old self, I'd just have faith in your journey. You're gonna have some crazy times and you're gonna have times where you think it's over. It's not gonna happen. But you have a path, you have a journey, and as long as you believe in yourself, that is all that matters. You know, people are going to believe in you, they won't believe in you, they'll drop you like this, you'll think you have made it. You know, when I was 21, I thought I got the job of my dreams. I became the presenter for MTV UK and I thought, wow, I just left university, this is it, I've made it. And a year later, I had nothing. And that was a reality check as well, you know, that never take anything for granted. Ride the wave whilst you can, because you never know when it's going to go. But for sure, to my 14-year-old self, just have faith. Just never lose it, because once you lose it, oh my goodness.
And that's really hard. I work with teenagers, and one of the biggest challenges that I see is that they have self-doubt. And self-doubt, I think, in this generation is a lot harder than self-doubt than I believe we had when I was growing up, because it's plastered all over the internet now. Yeah. And the images, I think there was a saying that said that every girl has, you know, dozens of images on their phone looking for the perfect one to put out for the world to see. And it's in that self-doubt that I think we see young girls and young boys limiting what they can achieve based on what they tell themselves. Yeah. So how did you get to this place where you have faith in yourself, where you don't just believe that you can do it, but actually you have the confidence to take that next step?
I really don't think I could have done it. So the faith that I had in myself was brought about because of the faith my parents had in me. It's about that support system that you have around you, truly. And my mum and dad believed I could do it before I could do it. You know, I was in a blessed position where I was able to be unemployed for 2 years and still be comfortable, and my parents look after me, and, you know, me not have to worry about jumping into a job that I don't want to do because I have to do it. Just conforming to societal norms because that's what people think I should be doing. My parents supported me. They knew, they had the same vision I had, and they didn't want to cheat me of my purpose because, you know, previous generations definitely had that. They didn't have a choice. I had a choice, and, you know, some people, granted, don't have that support system around them. So what I would say to that is it's really digging in deep, right? There is a constant back and forth whether you think you can do something or not, whether your dream is to become the manager of a supermarket, whether your dream is to become a doctor, whether your dream is to become a radio presenter. You know, it doesn't matter what it is, it's achievable, and it's closing your eyes and just having that vision, right? It's manifestation. And I think that's something that I have no idea how, but from a young age, I was able to master. I'm able to close my eyes and I can tell you in 10 years' time where I want to be and what I see. And I know, I can sit here and tell you that I know that that's going to happen. It's, again, down to faith, but that support system is so important, whether it's friends, that surrounding yourself with people who truly believe in your talent and believe in your vision. That's the most important thing, because you're going to have times where you feel so low, and it's the people around you that are going to pick you up.
It is. I totally agree with that. And in picking up on that low point, in your life so far, these 29 years, what would you say is the greatest challenge you faced so far on the journey?
You know, at the age of 18, I was kind of reborn. So from the age of 12, I was an international tennis player, and I toured the world, and I met some pretty horrible people. You know, being on tour, girls aren't very nice, and I was homeschooled. I didn't have much of a normal life, you know, friends, going for sleepovers, stuff like that. I didn't have that. And 5 o'clock in the morning, I was training till 9 p.m. at night, and that was just my life. And I thought this is my life forever, and I was happy with it. I was okay with it. 18 years old, I got an injury. I wasn't able to pursue that dream anymore, and so I had to come to terms with it. And that really, it was like a switch in my life where I had to reprogram. And, you know, it's not, to many, it's just like, okay, get over it, move on, you're still young. But I look back at that time and, you know, I truly had to reinvent everything I already knew. The people around me, I thought that all people were horrible because of the tour and how people were. So then when I went to university, I had a shield up. I was like, no one's good to you, trust no one. I had a coach during my tennis days who was, you know, I mean, mentally, verbally horrible and abusive, and would say terrible things. In his eyes, he thought it was to make me stronger, but I was such a weak character. I took everything so personally, and I was so emotional that I absorbed all of that, and it shaped who I was. So that was really a terrible time for me. I also felt like I was letting my dad down. My dad was an ex-athlete, and he toured the world with me. This was his dream as much as it was mine, and I thought, oh my goodness, if I stop this, will my dad not love me anymore? There was that attachment to that, and of course I was silly. Of course my dad still loves me. He loved me even more, respected me even more for saying, no, this isn't what I want to do anymore. So that, I think, was the biggest challenge in my life, and overcoming that, reinventing myself. I look back and, you know, I've moved halfway across the world. I have left family and friends, and that has not been as hard as what that moment was, especially at 18, trying to figure it out.
And at 18, that is the age that we see young people leaving families to go abroad. That is the age that I think as parents we think we got them to 18, we did it.
Yeah.
You know, we've survived and they're ready. And it's the rite of passage to move on and to go off to those who go to university or those who travel. But it's kind of like, as a parent, we think we did it, we got them there. Whew, you know? But as a young person, and I've seen this in the work that I do with young people, and of course being a mom who had a daughter who went through that stage, it's a really scary time in their life. So for you at that age, if you could tap into somebody watching this at that age, going through, what would you say that it was kind of like a life crisis moment for you, where you thought you knew who you were, but then life took a curveball and all of a sudden you had to figure out what plan B would be? Yeah,
absolutely. It was everything that you knew crumbled. Everything. And the thing is, if you're going through that, it's I don't think, I hate it when people try to convince you that it's going to be okay. That frustrates me so much. You know, every conversation I have with my friend, no matter what they're going through, if I say to them it's going to be okay, I'm lying, because it's not going to be okay. You know, I think people need to just start being a lot more real and raw and okay with not being okay. And so I had my parents at the time who, being parents, were telling me it's going to be okay. And I was sitting there thinking, no one understands me. No one gets it. This isn't your life. This is mine. You're older. You figured it out. You've got a nice house. You've got kids. You've got a career. I'm 18, and you know, at 18 you think it's all game over if you don't figure it out there and then. And what's funny is now approaching 30, I'm like, oh my goodness, I thought I had it figured out. I had to figure it out then, and I'm still figuring it out.
And that's what we don't really talk about with young adults.
Yes.
We don't talk about I think sometimes as parents and educators, we tell them that it's going to be okay because we want to make it better. We want to fix it for them. And if they can just trust that it's going to be okay, then maybe it's going to be okay. Yeah. But I know from their perspective, like you said, it's really annoying to be told that it's going to be okay. So what do you suggest that, going through that, remembering what that was like, what do you suggest to any parents or educators watching this with potentially someone that might be going through either hoping that they're getting the A and they don't get the A, or going off to university, or not getting the job, or even having an injury, to either changing their career path from sport or music to something completely different? What tips can you give parents or educators?
So, I mean, it's sitting with that person, right? And it's kind of breaking down everything that they've been through, getting to the core of things. Because of the experiences I had with my coach, that mental and verbal abuse they used to give, I held it all inside, and I didn't think that I was able to talk to anyone. My parents had witnessed it, and they would always try to speak to me about it. I didn't open up, and I didn't think it was okay to open up about it all. But I mean, I think my parents handled it the best way they could. You can't blame them because that's all they knew. It was the first time they were experiencing it. But it's sitting down with them and telling them, like, cry, let it out, let's talk about it. Like, you have a limitless time to, it's not that you have to have it figured out tomorrow. There's no expiry date on when you need to get it together. There is no, like, if my mum and dad sat down with me, which they did, and they just said, okay, let's do it. Like, you're not leaving this room now. We've had enough. Because I was walking around like a zombie. I didn't know what to do. And I internalized everything. That's just the personality that I am. And they didn't let me leave the room until we let it all out. And I think that was like a good 46 hours. We were just sitting there. And they let my little sister come in so she could see that this is what happens in life, so she could experience it. And it's, you know what, I'm not a parent. I inshallah one day I will be, so I don't know that feeling of how my parents must have felt in that moment. But it's just being raw with them. It's not saying it's going to be okay. That frustrated me.
Yeah, it's not going to be okay. It's going to be different.
It's going to be different, and it's going to be a challenge. And guess what? It's going to be so hard. Yeah. It's going to be one of the hardest things you've probably ever come across in your life. And what's crazy is that it's not my parents' fault, but if someone just like held your hand and said, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, and truly just tried to understand what you were going through, then you would have felt like, hang on, I'm not alone in this. Someone's actually empathizing with me. Yeah, they didn't know that I was going through this, and they don't know because they're not me. And that's what we're all super guilty of as well, right? Is that I'm the only person going through this. No one understands me. No one gets it. And I had to coach myself out of that, even to this day when I'm going through a tough moment. Get over it, Nimi. You're also not the only person that's going through tough times.
So is that how you get through the emotional obstacles? Is it by talking to yourself and telling yourself, get real, Nimi?
Yeah. It's having to check yourself, isn't it? Because I'm not surrounded by people that can check me right now. My family, who, your mum, dad, your husband and your sister, no one like it to be able to put you in place. But it is having to check yourself. At 18, I couldn't do it. I didn't have the minerals, or I didn't have the mindset to. Now at the age of 29, there's a limit to feeling sorry for yourself as well. I say, like, sit there and cry it all out, let it all out, 100%. But now you're kind of like pushing it a bit. Now you're not helping yourself. Now you're making it worse.
And I think that the trick is really being able to identify what the best self for you will be.
Yes.
And then checking in when you're feeling that way, saying, listen, you want this for yourself. How's this serving you? How's this helping you? Nimi, with thinking about your greatest challenge at such a young age, and your newest adventure, being married and going through something different to what your friends or family or even people in your circle are experiencing as marriage, you probably get a lot of judgment, but I'm not judging you, but I'm kind of judging you, which is what we see a lot with young people. How do you overcome the external judgments of what people believe you should be doing?
Yeah. It's tough. It's you're constantly, especially the culture that I come from as well. I'm Hindu, and with that Indian culture, there's a lot of people in older generations which don't understand how I can do what I do, which is living away from your husband. What do you mean? What do you mean? And nowadays we didn't even get to see our husband, and we just got told we were marrying someone, and then we had to move into their house, and I was only 18 when I did it, and then I had your mum when I was 21, and look at you, you're 29, you're not even living with your husband, no children. There is constant pressure. And these are people that you love, and you have to understand that they don't get the new way of your life, and that's okay. I still love them regardless, but having to make myself understand that I don't need to explain myself to anyone. I don't need to help anyone who misunderstands me to understand me. Because really, in the dynamic that I have right now with my husband, the only people that need to understand it is me and him. He's my future, he's my present, and as long as he's there with me, then we're good. There is constant judgment. People even my age, what? I meet people and they're like, oh, so where's your husband? Is he not here today? Yeah, he's not, because he doesn't live in this country. What? How do you do that? A lot of people don't believe in long distance relationships. We've been together for 10 years. You know, this isn't something that you just throw together and you just figure it out. No, this was a plan. We planned this. For a long distance relationship, you try even harder. You have to try double to make it work. You have to put even more into it. And I give props to my husband because of the life that I live. I'm not able to, also because of the times, right? The time difference and stuff. My 4 a.m. wake ups is when he probably gets home. But it's that understanding. And one thing that we say to each other is that this isn't a relationship, this isn't a marriage, this is two individuals who are on their own journey, but have made a conscious decision to help each other grow for their own purpose. And this is what we consistently say to each other.
That's so beautiful.
And I'm so blessed to have someone who is on the same mindset as me, because if I didn't, I'd be struggling. So I'm very lucky.
So beautiful. I could talk to you forever, but I know that we have to bring this conversation to a wrap soon. So with thinking about our audience, women of all age groups, all over the world, going through similar experiences, mothers watching this, not really understanding how to connect with their teenage daughters, teenage daughters watching this thinking, I wish my mom could see this. What would that one tidbit of information, that one thing that you want to capture our audience with, something that you know, if you could remember this about this interview, I believe that it will really have an impact on your happiness?
Yeah, being in that position that I was when I was younger, you feel alone. And one thing that, being a teenager as well, you think that your friends are more important, or they get you more than your mum and dad do, or more than your sister does. One thing that I would say to any teenagers that are going through a lonely patch at the moment, or have been for a while, is that your family love you no matter what. And I forgot that. They're there in front of you. They are consistently there reaching out to you. And for some reason, because of your own mind, you're batting it off. Your family, your mum, your dad, your siblings are there. They love you so much, and they are there to do whatever you need them to do. And that's one thing that to this day I need to keep reminding myself, that other people will come and go, but it's them that will be consistently there for you. Yeah.
Always. Thank you, Nimi. Thank you so much. So if you were watching this episode for the first time and you haven't seen any of our strong episodes, I have to tell you, every guest I interviewed has left me with such an enriching experience. And Nimi, today, having this conversation with you has been amazing. And I just feel really humbled to be in this experience with you on this journey. I don't know what to say, except that the feeling that I get doing these interviews reminds me that we're all on a journey together, whether it be a personal journey of our own personal experiences or a professional journey. Strong is all about reaching out to our communities. So if you are watching this and you know that there's somebody in your circle or somebody that you know would really benefit from hearing conversations like this, just send them a link. The aim is to create community. And I hope that we've left you with a feeling of support. And just before we go, Nimi, how can we support you on your strong journey?
I think it's knowing that, again, going back to it's not okay, you don't have to, the irony of it, that you don't have to be strong all the time. I think that's the most important thing. There is strength in weakness. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And that's, I think, something all of us can really tap into and help each other with.
Thank you, Nimi.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.